All right, we are live on open season. We got a big episode tonight, recapping Jordan's The Last Dance, 9 and 10. We're going to go around, talk about a little bit of NFL, a little bit about Dana White. We got some MLB stuff going on. But first off, we're going to get into The Last Dance and a little bit of a lighter last two episodes, kind of shows Jordan's last two championships, 96, 97, 97, 98. Showed us a little bit about Steve Kerr. We saw a little bit more into the flu game, which, to be honest, is kind of where I want to start. The food poisoning game, as it turned out to become, no one really seemed to care too much that it was the food poisoning game. The legend still stands. But did you guys believe the story that they tried to sell us on The Last Dance about kind of the pizza, five guys going out? Was that believable to you guys? Who wants to take it?
I didn't necessarily believe it. Everyone else seemed to think the same thing, that that's not actually what happened. The fact that five guys went to his house or to that hotel and dropped off a pizza. One of the guys said that was there said he was a huge Jordan fan, dropping it off.
Yeah, and I feel like Michael Jordan would never put his name on top of the order. Like, if you're Tom Brady, you're not going to be like, "Can I have a pizza for Mr. Brady?" Like when you're out of town, because
I thought it was funny too. The guy. I saw something after that show that said, first time ever I can relate to Jordan. I ate a whole pizza.
Yeah, that's like the least athletic thing Jordan's ever done, right?
He's probably smoking a cigar while doing it too.
Not only did Jordan eat the whole pizza, but he spit on it so no one else could have any of it, which is one of the best parts that they left out of the documentary. I couldn't believe it.
They were saying that there was this woman that used to make like cinnamon rolls or something. She was somehow like near the team or whatever, and she'd make them for Jordan. And Jordan would be like at practice, and he would just spit on all of them so that none of the teammates could get them. Like these cinnamon rolls. Like, that guy is such a savage. He's so competitive. It's like unhealthy to be around. Like,
right.
I feel like it's like he's not even letting you get a slice of pizza. But I thought that was crazy how, as a kid, they try to sell it to you as the flu game, and you get older and you're like, oh, he was hungover. Yeah. You're like, oh, he was on the ground with the chills, throwing up at 3 a.m.
We've all been
worshiping to the porcelain goddess. I've been there before.
Right.
I remember what that feels like.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, if Jordan said it was true, it was true. He's the greatest of all time.
It feels like we're doing it from a close relative's house.
He would never lie to you. Look at this guy. Look at that.
The ultimate competitor, but I feel like he kind of came across, he definitely comes across as an a-hole. For you guys, what do you think is like, how did The Last Dance change the way we look at Jordan?
I think there's no one even in the conversation anymore it's Jordan and everybody else now.
Yeah.
All the young people that never watched Jordan that think LeBron's the greatest ever, sorry, he's in the conversation, but it's really not a debate anymore.
No, LeBron goes right out the window. That first finals where he played the Mavericks and averaged 18 points a game, you think that would have happened to Jordan? He would have put up 40 points, 50 points. It would have been a losing effort, potentially with the team that LeBron had around him. But I'll tell you what, LeBron, Jordan probably wins that series if you flush him out with LeBron. Jordan's probably winning that series against the Mavs, right?
Yeah, I am a huge LeBron fan, but I have to say, even I go back and I look at the stats from that series, and I can't believe that LeBron was held to 18 points over a series by that team.
Unbelievable.
That was Michael Jordan would never. Michael Jordan, the last 3 championships, he averaged 32 points or something. The last 3, comes back out of retirement. mean, arguably the guy could have won 10 straight titles. I mean, you could make the argument, which is just insane. So for me, as like the ultimate kind of LeBron fan for this, it totally showed me that there's nobody really close. I mean, LeBron, I'd say, is a good second, but I mean, I just feel like there's nobody that can really touch Jordan. I mean, when you have a guy that could have won 10 straight championships and like you're not joking, and it was kind of like he would just turn it on. Like you look at that game that they show against the Jazz. Not only does he get the clutch bucket, but he gets the clutch steal too. Like, is there ever a greater play in NBA history that kind of summed up a guy's career? That 45 seconds of he steals the ball from Malone and then just goes down and hits the shot.
Unbelievable. The guy is he's a god on the basketball court. It was unworldly. Like 45 points out of the 88 points that his team scored to win against the Jazz came from Jordan, while Scottie Pippen's walking up and down the floor with a bad back. This is, I mean, I just. Anyone else have a point to make of why anyone's close to Jordan? Anyone?
No. But I will say one other thing too. If you need in a championship series, who would you rather have, LeBron or Kobe?
Kobe.
Yes.
I would honestly rather have LeBron. I think LeBron's a better player than Kobe was. Like Kobe is a closer. Kobe modeled his game after Jordan, and he's the closest facsimile that we have to Jordan, like hands down. But I think that LeBron is just he kind of scores like as many points as Kobe does. He's better at game winners.
What?
If you look at their percentages, look at Kobe's percentage at like game-winning shots when you look back at it. We remember Kobe hitting all these shots, but his clutch shot percentage wasn't as high as people want to think. Well, and LeBron's is actually a lot higher. And if you look in game sevens, LeBron has like the best, like for when he's about to suffer like an out, he's got like the highest like points per game or whatever like that, aside from anybody in history, like the highest like game 7. So I mean, he's a guy that like the early knock on LeBron was that he wasn't clutch, and you know he's definitely made like a lot of clutch plays like down the stretch. I would say that I think what his contributions are to a basketball team are greater than the contributions Kobe made.
Well, Kobe is also an all NBA
I wouldn't say that. I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I wouldn't say that LeBron's contributions are greater than Kobe's. I think LeBron is the best all-around basketball player that's ever played NBA basketball. I just don't think he's as great as many people that are even less talented. He shares part of the AAU mentality that's just different. He doesn't have a killer mentality, many game winners because he's always been there. But Kobe, a lot of that low percentage came early in his career. The 3 air balls against Utah. A lot of those, the reason it's so low is because those shots came early. Later in his career, he was far more clutch. He shot it at a high percentage, and I think you can build around Kobe in a way you can't really build around LeBron. He is his own offense, and that's why he comes up short so often, because he doesn't really want to take over. He's a victim of needing to play the right way, but it takes away from his greatness, and I think that takes away from his contributions to the team as well.
That's interesting that you think that it'd be easier to build around. You think it would be easier to build around Kobe?
I do. I really do.
I mean, I would probably.
LeBron's
I'd like to start. Go ahead.
I was going to say, LeBron's got some of that Peyton Manning in him. It doesn't matter who's around him or who his offensive coordinator is. A large part of what he does is going to be what he does no matter what you do. Whereas Kobe and Jordan, they can have 60% of your team's output, and all you need is to surround them with a couple 3-point shooters and defenders. It's easier to piece together that puzzle because LeBron just, again, he's a victim of needing to do the right thing, which is great. But when you're the best player on the court in a sport where you can take over, you just need to take over. And he lacks that capacity.
Even in a sport where now you're playing with 2 or 3 stars, like on top of it, like sometimes it's about like making the best pass, I would say, right? Like if
He's the best player. He should be taking.
We've always played with 2 or 3 stars. Thank you. We've always played with 2 or 3 stars. Back to Jerry West, Gail Goodrich, and Wilt Chamberlain. There's always been 3 stars on a team.
Right.
Call it however you want it. There's always been a teaming up of the guard. There's always been 6 teams that can win a championship every year in that league. It's not baseball. It's not football. The Celtics and Lakers have 52% of the NBA championships won ever.
Right. And you look at the Celtics and Lakers teams of the 80s. How many Hall of Famers do they have? Like 5, 6 apiece?
All I'm saying is that those guys shared the ball. You're saying that LeBron isn't a good guy to have because he's going to make that pass. But in a league where you're playing with 2, 3 stars on the team, is it the worst thing that he's going to pass to another All NBA guy on his team? I mean, I don't think that's necessarily terrible that he's going to share the ball with 2 other All Stars.
I think that's great. I think more players want to play with a LeBron or a Kobe. I meant as an executive. If I was an executive, I need the guy who's going to kill the other team. I'll piece together the rest of it. And I don't know that LeBron very often in his career has felt, I need this. I think the instance in 2004 was something I should have seen for the rest of his career. That should have been the beginning of an arc that never came for that player. He's too Magic Johnson-like. But he's never had a Kareem. He's never had James Worthy. And Dwayne Wade was unbelievable. I'm not discrediting him or Chris Bosh for that matter. But he needs to be more of the Jordan mold. And that's why I'd rather build around that scorer in that league. This isn't football. I need an assassin. And LeBron is the best all-around basketball player probably to ever play in the NBA. But he's not an assassin. By any means.
And you just say he's not an assassin because he's not going to take that last shot?
Because he's willing to give that pass to George Hill. Because that needed to be a LeBron drive. He had the switch. He had the mismatch. He's the most physically gifted player we've ever seen. He needed to get a head of steam going and go to the basket. And he needed to not pass that ball to Daniel Moore in 2006, I think. I mean, there's a catalog of players. And yes, I understand if they hit them, we're talking about that situation like Paxson or like Steve Kerr. So part of it is the result, and you don't really look at the decision in foresight as you would in hindsight. But again, I'd rather take that decision away from him. Make the shot. Go be who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that arguably over the last couple of years, he has kind of made that shot or whatever. I mean, he's definitely.
What game are you talking about?
I mean, think about the game that he played against the Celtics this year, where he got the ball in the post at the end, and you just kind of knew that he was going to hit that shot. That's a shot that we know LeBron is going to hit these days, whereas we didn't know he was going to hit that shot.
I want to see him hit it. I want to see him hit it in the playoffs, though, not in a regular season game in January.
Look,
he has more playoff game winners than Jordan and Kobe, though.
I've given you guys that Jordan is better. I mean, I've given that up to you guys. So I don't know what else I can do, but I'm saying I can make a strong case. I think I would rather have you would straight up for you. It's not even a decision. You'd rather take Kobe over LeBron, Justin.
So 2 things. One, Kobe actually plays defense. LeBron plays 0 defense. And in the playoffs, Kobe would be guarding some of the best players, as did Jordan. LeBron plays 0 defense. If LeBron actually wanted to play defense, he could be an all-NBA defender. He doesn't do it. However, I would say players on the teams would rather play with LeBron over Kobe because of how much he does facilitate. However, like Frank said, I want the guy that has that killer mentality, what I've been saying for years. I've only seen him do it a couple of times against the Warriors when he was by himself, and that Game 6 in the Garden when he was on the Heat. Other than that,
who has that killer mentality? Does Isaiah Thomas, the little Isaiah Thomas from the Celtics, does he have that killer?
No,
I just don't get how do we get
to killer mentality?
How do we get to a sign that LeBron, the guy's got 3 titles, and we're saying he's not a killer?
So Kevin Durant, for instance, I take him over LeBron in a playoff game because he will just take over a game, and you cannot stop him.
You would take Kevin Durant over LeBron? Okay.
Yes.
I think you have to make the argument. You've seen LeBron jumping team to team, going from the Heat to the Cavs to the Lakers. Like these teams are all basically he's coming to these teams knowing that there's either superstars there to join him, or that he's going to have the assets needed to trade for superstars, a la an Anthony Davis, right? So we hopefully will see another evolution in LeBron's game where universally he will be that guy where we're like, okay, LeBron came in and hit those last second shots. He wanted the ball in his hands and he only deferred because he needed to. When the Cavs won the championship against the Warriors, LeBron made some great plays. Obviously, he's LeBron James, one of the best basketball players ever lived. But what you saw was he let Kyrie take the ball in his hands and do what Kyrie does. And Kyrie hit the biggest shot of his life and of the Cavs that the Cavs have ever hit in any NBA game and won that game for him. I mean, why didn't LeBron take that shot if it's his team? I'd rather have the guy who can take that shot while playing defense, while running the offense. I'd rather have the Kobe over LeBron now.
Mm. So does that come at the stake of like lower talent? Like you would rather have a lesser talent, but have the guy that is like that nails. Like my point is, look, we can look at LeBron and say he's not a killer, but he's got 3 championships. You know, he's been arguably the best player for like a 15-year, and we're just going to say this guy isn't a killer. Like, how do we know he's not a killer? I mean, maybe he had one bad chalk it up.
To be a killer, but it's not in his DNA. It's not in his head that he is a born killer. You look at Kobe, you look at Jordan, those guys are killers. You look at Kawhi, I think Kawhi's the killer. I just don't think LeBron has it in his DNA to be a killer. Like, it's not natural to him. He's forced himself out of his comfort zone to be that guy a few times, but I don't necessarily think it's who he is.
Okay, fair enough. So someone I thought that looked really terrible throughout this whole thing was Scottie Pippen. Who did you guys think came out worse overall in the who do you think had the worst light casted on him in this documentary overall?
Probably the GM.
For me, it's Pippen, hands down. I didn't realize all the small things, all the times that he missed a free throw or decided to sit on the bench or got mad about Toni Kukoc. Obviously, it's Jordan's documentary. He's going to make sure that he looks good and probably not care to mention whatever Scottie Pippen's little transgressions were. But for me, I thought it was hands down Pippen.
Well, I can tell you who I think it is, and I think it's actually Jerry Reinsdorf. I think he comes out as the biggest cheapskate. That guy made more money off the Bulls and that team winning championships. He's one of the richest guys in the world, came from generational wealth. And you're looking at a guy who allowed the GM to just go in and break up a championship team. He allowed him to poison the locker room, at least from Phil on down. Once he said that to Phil, no matter what you're coming back, that should be inexcusable for a GM to be able to say that to a coach of Phil Jackson's level. Like, come on, man. Krause, he deserves a lot of credit. He didn't draft Jordan. He did not draft Michael Jordan. And that is a fact. And Reinsdorf needed to realize that Michael Jordan just don't pop up out of thin air. You need a top 5 player in the NBA to win a championship nowadays. Since the Detroit Pistons, every championship team has had a top 5 player. Since the Pistons, which beat a Lakers team that was full of turmoil and who knows what else. But I
one of the biggest busts ever, that LA team with Gary Payton and Karl Malone. What a disaster!
Disaster. Frank, who do you think came out the worst?
I think court of public opinion is probably Jordan because I think it's easy to be naive. A lot of people who experienced that Jordan phenomenon probably didn't think he was the jerk he was, but I think that's part and parcel with most great players. I think Tom Brady's become a weird Tony Robbins-esque. Just when you're that great, you have to be a little bit self-centered. and it comes with the worst of it. I think so for a lot of people, it's probably Jordan. For me, I think it's Pippen. I think you're right. I've always think he's kind of soft. He is the product of Jordan. And look, he's kind of a broad mold. I mean, he's a great point forward. He's in that Grant Hill, Magic Johnson. They're role players, but between the ears, that guy is not. I don't want to say not a winner. I mean, he's won 6 championships, and I'm sitting in my room, so obviously the guy's won more than I have. But in the spectrum of professional athletes, he was soft. You can bully him. He's to be had. Scottie Pippen is to be had. And for the record, a lot of new athletes are to be had because they didn't grow up like Jordan. He's different. And in this particular documentary, I don't think people realized what he became, who he is, and what he is that made him so much greater than everybody else and what led so many athletes to want to be just in other sports. It's what led Tiger Woods to seek out his approval because they were really the only 2 people on the planet at that time that had that sort of swelling following. I mean, what we saw in the 90s was special. It was as if you combined in the 80s and then added the publication that we started to get from the media in the 90s. I mean, it was unbelievable. But Pippen was so soft and he crumbled so many times. And if not for having played with the best winner of all time, we'd be looking at him. He'd be a Barkley. He'd be a much different player. He never played with Jordan. He's still a top 60 player. He was ranked, 23? I mean, that's not where he is.
Yeah, I was going to ask you,
I'm sorry?
where do you have Pippen if he never plays with Jordan? So I was going to ask, I mean, where do you think he is if he never meets up with Jordan?
Here's my issue with the question. He might grow into something he never was. So if it's just the Pippen that we've seen in Portland and in Chicago, and that player never meets up with Jordan, he's top 60. If that guy grows a sack, which people have done, LeBron has done, show that if you're in pressure cooker enough times, you like losers can still win if you're in that pressure cooker enough. So he might have become a top 40 player is probably his ceiling without Jordan, but where I have him without Jordan is probably closer to 60.
I think he's Lamar Odom. I think you look at it, Lamar Odom minus the crack cocaine. All right, that's who he is. He's got all this great talent. A lead scorer. He's a guy.
He probably deserves a little bit better than that, Jordan.
Lamar Odom's an all-star, man. He's an all-star.
He's a great Grant Hill.
But Lamar Odom got better when he had Kobe to push him and make him a better player. Maybe that's a little far. Maybe he had
a good year with the Heat before he went out there. I remember he had a really good year with the Heat. He could ball for a little while there.
Yeah. But if so, Scottie Pippen, I never really watched Scottie Pippen, and I just heard he was, the Batman or the Robin to Jordan's Batman. And when you watch this, I didn't see much of that. He was a great defender. He's a great point forward. But watching it, even in the year that Jordan wasn't there, he only averaged 22 points a game. It's not like he lit up the world, and he lit all the categories: assists, rebounds, steals. He can do it all. But to me, after watching it, I think he's a bit overrated, if anything. His defense is undeniable. It's probably all-time great from a power forward, small forward, whatever you want to call him. But the only time I saw him actually show any toughness was in that Game 6 against the Jazz, when he was huffing and puffing up the court just the whole time. When are we going to see Pippen take over games? You never really saw it. He had a couple of good dunks on Ewing and great defense on Magic Johnson in that series against the Lakers. But I mean, him and Jerry Krause to me are the ones that look terrible in all of this. And I agree, Torda, that the owner looks terrible too, because it's his team and he allowed for all of this to happen. How can you just let Jordan, Phil Jackson, just leave after they just won one, sign Pippen to a 1-year deal, give him a max, wherever that was back then, and see if they can do it? You're playing with the greatest player of all time, and you just let your GM tell him this is Phil Jackson's last year. it's mind-boggling because they would have won another
Why
one.
would you ever get rid of Phil Jackson? It just makes like no sense. Like that they
I
were
think-
like ready
I
to
think-
flip the page on like the greatest player. And
If anything,
Michael Jordan wasn't even that old at that
It's
point.
ego.
It wasn't like he was 40.
I think Phil Jackson looks the best, honestly, out of everyone in all of this.
It's a good point.
That's how he started out learning the triangle offense to just managing all these crazy, like Dennis Rodman, Jordan, Pippen, managing everyone. I was blown away. I always thought he was a bit overrated because he always had Jordan, Kobe, Shaq, Pippen. But honestly, he's a great coach all time, probably one of the best ever. So I think he looked the best.
NBA coaches don't need X's and O's. They need the ability to manage egos. The NBA is a talent-driven league. The reason Phil Jackson can't be overrated is because he managed those egos. Sure, he had the talent, but you can't name me an NBA coach that would title a talent. You just showed me the coach that got these guys to submerge their egos and subjugate their egos for the greater cause. He got a
What about
teenage
Rick
Kobe
Carlisle?
and a Shaq that had just got here. Hey, Rick Carlisle's an underrated coach. He's a good coach.
He's a very good coach.
He's
I was gonna say, I feel like that
Yeah,
team,
he's-
that Mavs team, is the only team I've seen that's only had one star on it. His second best player was Jason
It had a
Terry,
bunch-
and his third best player was Sean Marion.
Jason Kidd.
Yeah, but Jason Kidd was like at the end of his
I had
rope.
a former All-Stars.
Kidd.
Yeah, but I mean, he was Jason Kidd with like not the stats or ability. Basically, he was like 38.
He turned himself into a three-point.
He was Jason Kidd, but with the best three-point shot he's ever had.
Exactly. He turned
Jason Kidd at 38 had the best distance to hit he's ever had.
He did become a better three-point shooter at the end of his career. He never shot really a good percentage, though, if you look at it.
Well,
But
Nobody shot timely threes in the playoff run, though. They had an MVP performance from Dirk and a bunch of supporting cast. And Jason Terry is not a star by any means, but he's so when you're getting a Herculean performance from a Dirk, guys like Jason Terry, guys like Sean Marion, these former All-Stars at the end of their career, again subjugating their egos to harp on that point. That was an underrated team in the sense that it was a lot of guys pulling in the same direction.
yeah,
I love that team.
no, I mean, I love that team. I just think, like, ability-wise, I think you could put that roster up against a lot of teams, and it's not going to be as good as a lot of teams that won the finals. Like, they'd get wiped by a lot of teams that won the finals, I think. The team with Dirk and Jason Terry.
I agree with that.
So we saw Steve Kerr. You know, they went into some time on that. I've always thought that Steve Kerr is tremendously overrated. To me, he hit like a 15-foot shot that, you know, as Tordai and I were talking the other night, we could probably both have hit. You guys ever understand I feel like if there's anybody with a silver spoon in their mouth, it's Steve Kerr. He wins 3 championships with the Bulls. He wins 2 with the Spurs, and then he goes to this Warriors team that was completely built not by him, and he just like takes it over and then wins 3 championships. Has there ever been a guy that's had like an easier path than just like winning championships? I don't know.
But he created that. Like he might have taken over the talent in Golden State, but he started like that offense that it is today, the ball movement. I mean, Steven Jackson was the coach, right, before him?
Yeah, Mark Jackson.
Yeah, Mark Jackson. He was a great coach, but the ball movement really started once Steve Kerr got there. It wasn't really necessarily like that before that. Obviously, when you start coaching a team that has this elite talent, that's one thing. But I do think Steve Kerr is another coach that it does well with managing egos. And that's a lot of egos that year with Durant, Draymond, and all those guys. Again, but like you could say, like for Brad Stevens, like when he had actual talent, like he couldn't manage egos. He couldn't manage Kyrie. He couldn't manage everything going on.
Well, I think that's the knock on him.
Yeah, he's great at coaching like worse players and making them better, but he's not great at managing egos.
Yeah, like Doc Rivers, you're saying is like a good guy with stars, probably.
Yeah, give Doc Rivers.
Every star wants to play with Doc Rivers for some reason.
Yeah, give Doc
Only
Rivers
won one championship.
Give Doc Rivers the Celtics team that Brad Stevens 2 or 3 years ago when Kyrie and Gordon went down and see how many playoff wins they get.
Yeah, probably not many.
No.
Well, he would have backed out. He would have asked to get traded the second that he found out that he didn't have all-stars, like he did here the first time. Remember when Pierce and Garnett were leaving, like he just like decided to like hold out or whatever. He did whatever he did, but made sure that he got traded.
You're coaching
That was
a
the
great
right
team.
decision. We got a first-round pick for a coach.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it was. I mean, when you end up with Brad Stevens,
you don't want to be a part of it. You fell upward.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, at the time though, you would have never thought we were getting Brad Stevens, except for Justin. Justin actually predicted that.
Real.
Craziest prediction I ever had.
Real. You predicted.
I out of nowhere, I'm like, you know what?
It was out of nowhere.
He's like, all right, I never heard anything about it. I said, all right, like Danny Ainge is, he mentioned like thinking college coaches, something outside the box, and Brad Stevens just came off another championship run with Butler. I'm like, why not Brad Stevens? And I'm actually shocked how well he has done. I never thought he'd be this good of a coach, to be honest with you.
But as right as we were on that, we were as wrong on Marcus Smart. Justin and I were like hugging each other when they drafted Marcus Smart. Like he's been like the biggest bust, I'd say.
I was too.
Every jersey.
I had the pants off and everything.
I was so excited. I thought he was going to be a Dwayne Wade, but like better at defense.
Same.
Dwayne Wade.
Same. I thought he was.
Dude, he was averaging like 20-something in college. And what's his face? Kevin Durant was going to all of his games, like saying that this kid is like the truth. I'm like, yeah. I was all on board for him.
Michael Beasley was the truth too. You got to be careful with college.
Yeah, that was great.
Now every time he shoots a three, I like, my heart jumps.
Then he'll hit one from half court.
But he shoots about 10 of them a game now, though, so that's too much for the old ticker. Jalen Rose said that Jordan would average 47.5 points in today's game. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's just outlandish?
No.
Or for me, if a guy like James Harden can average 39, I've got to say that Michael could average 47.
Michael can do whatever Michael wanted to do. If his body, if he had load management like the Stars have today, and he could take off 20 games a year and just play 60 games, why not? Why couldn't he score 47 points a night? Well, who's going to stop him? With the way they cater to the offensive game nowadays,
he wouldn't deal with any hand checking.
No. The big thing that stood out to me with the George Jordan documentary is just watching the defense he played and how much more difficult it looks. Jordan was getting banged up down low. If he was even breathed on in today's NBA, they're calling a foul. There was games he went without shooting a free throw. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest drivers in NBA history. I mean, come on. I think if he wanted to, he could do it.
I totally agree. Like, I feel like anybody else, we would say that number is outlandish. But I think Jordan, you could easily see him probably shooting like 15 free throws a night in this NBA. And then, with his ability from two and just his down low game and all that, yeah, I think he would definitely. And to your point, if he was able to do load management and just be able to play like 30 minutes a night, make sure that he was like pushy, come out the fourth quarter every time, like some of these guys do. I got to totally agree that I think 47 is a number we would just like laugh at with anyone else, but Jordan, I could see it. Because you got to think about it too. These teams, like they would play, like sometimes the end of these games, like the scoring would be like 85 to like 80. Like these are not scoring. They were not scoring like they were in today's NBA, where everyone scores 110 points. Like Jordan was scoring 45 when the team would score, to your point earlier, like 88 or whatever. It was like Jordan could still score like no one else was scoring.
I don't think Jordan would allow for load management, though. Like they tell him to, and he'd just be like, "Nah, I'm just going to keep going."
Yeah, I don't think he'd do well with load management either. He'd make sure that his
My
team were
only
the
issue
only
with the
guys.
47.5.
Audio issues.
My only issue with the 47.5 is that Kobe Bryant in his best year averaged 35, and that's relative to the modern rules. I don't know that Jordan is 15 full points better than Kobe. That I just think that's a lot of points. I think it's easy and hyperbole to say that. And the 15 free throws a game is a given. If Harden is getting 15 free throws a game, Jordan's getting 15. But I just think 47.5 is a lot every night in a league where, again, he's going to need to give up that ball sometimes. And again, the reason that he was able to score 52% of his team's points is because his team was comprised of bangers and rebounders, and the team was built around him. In today's game, that's Ersan Ilyasova, not Charles Oakley. He needs to pass that ball a little bit more often if he's going to win at the same rate.
Ooh, Charles Oakley to Ilyasova, that is quite a comparison.
That's a skill drop.
Ilyasova.
Well,
But that's
here's the
everything
thing.
you're looking for. These
Ilyasova's exactly a gigantic bust. Simply flounders around for enough time in the league for the game to change, and now he's a commodity.
Yeah.
Seriously, I mean, he's like what they were looking at with like Kukoc and stuff. That was like the idea. These like 6'10", 6'11" guys that can shoot, handle it a little bit. I still never realized as a kid. I never realized how good
when the Celtics were looking.
Yeah, Kukoc was nasty, unbelievable.
Yeah.
He was the Michael Jordan of Europe.
The Luka before Luka.
Yeah.
Luka before Luka, yeah.
And you never really saw him like evolve in those years with Jordan because it was Jordan's team. Like when he came over, if that was his team, he could have probably averaged close to 20 a game.
And think about if he had like come over here at like 18 or something, been immersed into like the college system. Like he comes over here as like a 28-year-old pro or something. I don't know how old he was, but he was definitely a little bit older. Like just picture if he had like grown up here or something and like been immersed in the system a little bit earlier. Like he was so far ahead of his time, and he was like overseas, like playing against no one that was like comparable to the NBA talent now.
Another knock on Pippen. Clutch shots, they went to Kukoc over Pippen multiple times.
Oh, but Kukoc had that uncanny ability of hitting them. He would hit them. That time that they even benched Scottie Pippen or whatever, that Pippen wouldn't go back in the game. They had 1.8 seconds left. And Kukoc hits the shot. How pissed must Pippen have been after that? That was great. You're benched and Kukoc hits it.
Kukoc was probably making just as much money as Pippen was at that point too.
Probably. That must have been so annoying if you're Pippen and you're like, wait, you guys are scouting fucking Toni Kukoc? Like, I'm averaging 22 points. I'm actually on your team. You're going to Croatia to look at this 6'10" guy. It's not even in the NBA for another 3 years.
He signed the contract. It's a shitty contract. They should have renegotiated it, but
that goes
the
back
owner.
to Consdorf looking terrible.
It is.
Yeah, and how do they say that they're like, Jordan, we figured we would just pay him because he made a lot of money for a lot of people. It's like, what about Pippen, who was actually on your team and had made a lot of money for a lot of people? It's like that was such a hypocrite statement to say that like just pay Michael.
I don't think that. I think there's a lot of
clearly something was going on with that.
A lot of bad blood with Pippen and Bulls management, that's for sure, and that will never go away.
Yeah, that's for sure. So LeBron James was on a podcast with Maverick Carter and some others. They were talking about how when the season went into lockdown back in 2010, 2011, he was actually starting to train for football, and he actually got an offer from the Dallas Cowboys. I want to throw it out to you, gentlemen. How good would LeBron James have been as a football player?
In today's NFL, he would have been a great tight end. I don't see LeBron going to block anybody in 2010 now. In today's game, you could be an elite like Jimmy Graham, not blocking and just being a pass catcher. Like, no one can guard him. You're going to have a safety guard LeBron James. I don't know how good he would have been in 2010, though. The tight end position at that point was a lot more blocking than it is now, I think.
LeBron is a wide receiver disguised as a tight end. He would have been one of the best wide receivers to ever play the game. I'm talking 20 touchdown seasons. There's no doubt in my mind he would have been one of the premier talents the NFL has ever seen at the wide receiver position. I'm thinking he'd be better than a Michael Thomas, honestly. I mean, 6'8", 260 pounds, probably runs about a 4.6, 40. But realistically, he's a guy that just picks up speed as he goes. He might even be faster than a 4.6. I don't know. I don't know if he's ever ran a 40 or been timed in that before. Well, I'll tell you what, that guy can blaze, and any cornerback who keeps up with him isn't out jumping him. You could throw him jump balls every time down in the red zone, and he's coming down with that 75% of the time, maybe more on a well-thrown jump ball. LeBron is one of the best athletes we have ever seen, ever in the history of sports. I think that we're putting him up there. He probably has the best red zone threat that we've ever seen in the NFL.
I've honestly got to agree with you. The guy was a two-time All-State selection at wide receiver in high school. The only reason was because one of the other years he played quarterback. So, I mean, he was that athletic, and as a junior, he had 60 catches for 1,200 yards and 16 touchdowns. He was the best player in the state. So, and he had offers from like Ohio State, and I totally agree with you. He's 6'8", and that athletic, you could throw him 13-foot jump balls. And, think about, this is a guy, we look at Rob Gronkowski's athleticism. Rob Gronkowski is like 6'7", 250, runs like a 4.68 40, has like a 35-inch vertical. LeBron is like a 40-inch vertical. He runs a 4.6 40. He's taller, faster, and look how dominant Rob Gronkowski was. So I just think if we put together that athleticism, I think if you look, say if you had to just pick people that were athletes for the Olympics or something, you just had to pick a team, I think LeBron would be on that team, as one of the most athletic people that you could get. Say you had to choose. So I think he just has legendary athleticism that would have easily translated at one receiver.
What happens though when he gets hit across the middle and he doesn't get to just shoot a free throw? I'm sorry, but LeBron, you can compare LeBron in the red zone. I agree with you, but you cannot compare Gronk to LeBron James from in a football standpoint. Rob Gronkowski is one of the toughest football players to ever play the game. Absolutely. And I'm sorry, LeBron James, the amount of times he has to call out of the game because he has a cramp or something in the finals or is dehydrated. I'm sorry. I personally feel like LeBron is a bit soft. I do agree. He would have some amazing games, and I don't know if he would be one of the best football receivers of all time. It's just kind of out of the question.
I just see him as Calvin Johnson, but taller.
Calvin Johnson was playing with a broken fibula. I don't see LeBron James doing that.
If Gronk 4.68,
talent in a vacuum is awesome. Talent in a vacuum is awesome to evaluate. It is, and hyperbole is nice. LeBron is, and Justin, the comp was perfect. He's Jimmy Graham. He's Aaron Hernandez. And the second he gets hit across the middle by Ray Lewis, all that talent goes right out the window. The guy is not a football player. If we're going talent alone, sure. I mean, the eighth best tight end ever is Mike Ditka or Anthony Mackie. So talent-wise, those names got all that talent, sure. Once he gets hit and that becomes his career, if he responds well to it, sure, your point is valid. But if he doesn't, which everything that he's shown you in the NBA shows you he wouldn't, he would fold. He would fold. I'm sorry. He's not a football player. He's got all the talent in the world no matter what sport he plays. The guy's not a football player.
And in today's era, Travis Kelce is a great tight end. Travis Kelce does not block anybody. Travis Kelce is great at finding the open spots in the field and catching. But many defenders have said Travis Kelce is the worst blocker in the NFL. In today's NFL, LeBron would do great, but in 2010, again, I don't see him being as effective because it's like a flag football league now. It wasn't like that.
That's a good point. I mean, I guess if you're saying today's game, I mean, I
he would
think
dominate today's game. He's an asset, and you protect your assets. You don't send LeBron over the middle like that. You don't
Brock could go over the middle.
If he's your wide receiver, he's a wide receiver. He's
LeBron is
just because of his size, that doesn't make him a tight end. He's a wide receiver guy. And if Gronk ran a 4.68, LeBron's probably running a 4.4 flat. I'm sorry, but LeBron versus Gronk in a race, I think LeBron's winning that race by 2 steps, 3 steps.
John Ross runs a 4.1 or 4.2.
You've never seen LeBron run in pads.
Pads would slow him down so much.
That 4.6 is great on the hardwood.
I've never even seen him catch a football before. Like some of Rob Gronkowski's one-handed catches are like off the charts.
You don't think with what LeBron can do with a basketball that he'd have good hands in football?
What is he good? Like, is he a good dribbler in basketball?
Yes.
Yes, he has handles.
No.
Come on.
He's an average dribbler in
You don't
basketball.
think
He's average. He's an elite passer. He's an elite
exactly.
passer. He's not an elite catcher or dribbler.
He's a ball handler.
He's not an elite shooter.
A ball like there's a difference between a ball handler like Kyrie Irving and like what you're trying to compare LeBron to. Like LeBron carries the ball.
I'm not saying he has handles. Nobody has handles like Kyrie Irving.
LeBron's the best passer, I think, from a big guy ever in the NBA, hands down. His vision's unbelievable. Like ball handling.
Yep. His spatial awareness as a wide receiver. If he knows where everyone is on the floor, he's going to know where every D-back is out there on the field. He is going to know where everyone is. I've seen LeBron. I've played football at very competitive levels. And let me tell you something. LeBron would absolutely dominate.
In 2010, there were safeties like Cam Chancellor.
Alex.
Those guys would lay him out across the middle.
Frank, what's your point?
Yeah, Alex, you're tougher than LeBron James. LeBron James is a softie. You will run through a brick wall. You will run through a brick wall for any coach. For coach, no one. For foot, no one. You will run through a brick wall. LeBron James is going to build a door next door and go through the door. He's not a football player. I'm sorry.
All state in Ohio.
It's not his mentality.
Do you know how many athletes are like all-state athletes in multiple sports?
Yeah, but I'm just saying LeBron has this athleticism that we've never seen before in the NBA, and I think it would translate at the NFL level too.
Let me ask you guys this. Who would be the best football player in the NBA right now? You're to take
football player in the NBA?
You take an NBA player, you put
Odell Beckham.
Field out of position. Who would you choose?
Oh, the other way.
Football player,
Green, maybe.
You take
Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
Russell Westbrook safety. Russell Westbrook safety. That's it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I have John Wall play freaking running back. I'd run up the field in 5 seconds.
Yeah,
wasn't Iverson a quarterback?
Yes.
Yeah, Iverson was nasty. He was
Imagine having Iverson as your quarterback. Oh.
I think he was a cornerback.
Until he gets hit.
Oh, he was a cornerback. Okay.
No, he was a quarterback.
No, that's what I thought.
He was a quarterback. Football, and he ran, and no one could stop.
Yeah, it'd be impossible to get him.
Yeah. Till you did. Till inevitable. Ooh.
So, all right. Dana White, he's pushing things along recently. I think big things of Dana White. Like, I really like how he's pushing things along in his sport. I think every other sport is, kind of like a step behind him. He's got guys that are like sweating, bleeding on each other, and he's doing tests, cranking those out. UFC's in a good spot. What do you guys think? Which sport do you think is primed to come back next? So we've got racing has come back. Golf has come back, but what do you think about football, basketball, MLB? Which in hockey, which is the best position to come back?
Probably
I
go
think hockey
basketball.
will probably come back first because, again, you're dealing with tougher. Oh. I was going to say hockey because they're the tougher athlete. I'll tell you what sport needs to come back first is baseball. Your sport is specifically already designed for social distancing, and you need to be the only thing on television right now. Korean baseball is doing a 4 in Nielsen ratings. The first sport that needs to come back is baseball. I don't think they get it done, but they're the first sport that needs to come back.
They have some nice sex dolls out in the stands too. You guys see that? In the Japanese baseball league, they put like female sex dolls in the stands to pretend like they're fans.
No.
I swear to God, look this up.
Yep.
I heard they're going to get virtual fans.
Yeah.
And try to get virtual fans in the stands. Did you guys hear about that? And pump in crowd noise to try to make it seem like there's actually people there.
Yeah. I personally feel like it's going to be basketball, and the only reason why is because there's less players. You have to test and everything. Baseball, there's 25 plus. I've heard they're going to try to get minor league players on, push the rosters potentially 50. And I don't know how that's even possible. Yeah, exactly. Look at these sex dolls. They said they had no idea they were.
She's wearing a mask. She's wearing a mask.
Outrageous. Good for Korea. Good for them. Okay.
The umpires are getting fired every single game. They've already had to demote 6 or 8 umpires. They're probably just getting out back getting shot because they didn't umpire the game correctly.
Well, that's South Korea, not North Korea. North Korea, yes, they would have to do that. South Korea is a little bit more a little bit more of an advanced culture.
They're all about the people. That's why they have the sex dolls out there.
Right. I think the funnier
right
with baseball is that their players are being the biggest prima donnas of any sport over this. You are hearing an outcry from some of the highest paid baseball players in the league about how I'm risking my life, this is unfair, I get my money and not have to play and just get paid anyway. You've got people working at stores, at grocery stores, where people have already died from COVID, who are going back to fight for their $8.50 an hour. And you've got MLB players whining like little babies that they have to go play a game for $10, $20, $30 million, $5 million. I don't care. It's millions of dollars. Shut your mouth.
Wait till they don't get paid.
Go ahead.
Once they don't get paid and they see it happening, then they'll all of a sudden want to come back. Everyone has an opinion until their paycheck gets taken away from them. So, these baseball players, do they want to play or not? Do they want to sit at home and just play video games all day for the entire summer?
Their players' union is too strong. They already negotiated that deal. They're getting paid 50% of their salary minimum this year, no matter what. Already negotiated, already signed. Their players' association is too strong, and that's why they're so out of touch. Their whole, and again, Alex, don't worry about they're getting paid. I don't know people's money. My bigger point is every problem you're worried about dealing with, so is everybody else. I don't understand why you would think there needs to be extra certifications. You're already getting testing at 200 times the level any ordinary citizen is. You're getting you're made up. That's it. But I think the question was which part coming back first. I think hockey. I think basketball makes a lot of sense, like you said. Plus, I think basketball's in a weird spot. It kind of needs a finals this year. I think more than any other sport, basketball would be really, really hurt by not having an NBA finals. In hockey, any team can win, so it's less of a claim. I think 16 teams could say I could have won the Stanley Cup. There's about 3 or 4 teams in the NBA that could have won the championship this year, and it hurts all of the players involved's legacy if they don't come back. That hurts Kawhi a year of his prime. That hurts LeBron at 35. It's got to come back. It makes sense. And it's also going to be, like I said, that in baseball, going to be hard for two completely different reasons, but they need to come back first. Would benefit first, I would.
Talk about girly men. The European soccer is starting, and these baseball guys can't get on the field. Soccer, the biggest girly sport. I
just don't get how, like, you listen to them talking about too. They're like, I don't know how that would work. Just going like quarantine and going from like the hotel to the ballpark. It's like, dude, you get to go to a hotel and a ballpark. We're all freaking at our houses. You're getting paid millions to go collect cash for your family, and you're going to be in a hotel. You're going to be getting nice food. These people are acting like they're prisoners.
Also, like the death rates for like people under 50 are so like minor. Like the majority of the folks, unfortunately, that have been died from corona are elderly people, or that had a pre-existing condition of some sort. These are professional athletes. Baseball players, probably the majority of them are around maybe mid-20s, late 20s. If they get it, nothing is like it's unfortunate you do, but nothing's going to happen to you. Like you're going to get the best treatment there is in the world, and you're going to be fine. Get back on the field. People need sports.
All right.
Baseball needs to be needed.
Exactly. This is a sport that's suffering. Like you should be capitalizing on this opportunity. Have people start watching baseball again, because we were glued to this Jordan documentary like it was like crack. We're like, I need more, because it's the only sport we could watch. Baseball. Like this is your time to capitalize.
Well, as we're starting a new segment in the show, open season, with the last couple minutes, I'm going to ask you guys, something that is just completely not related to sports. What is something you really resent paying for?
My Easy Pass bill. Those bastards.
Right, because they're tricking you. They've like got you. You shouldn't have to pay, right?
No, it's terrible. The worst bill I get. Credit cards, okay. I signed up for that. That was my fault. I bought that thing I didn't need. Easy Pass? Are you kidding me? Leave me alone. You make enough money. You don't need to charge me based on how much I drive my car.
Anybody else?
I would say like just taxes in general. Like every paycheck you get just goes to taxes, and I mean, it's just used for other things. I mean, it's like you earned it, and then just goes.
Yeah, I was gonna say excise tax.
Yeah, it's the worst. Excise tax, yeah, too. It's like, oh, I already paid for my car, and now it's like,
oh, excise tax has got to be the worst. That's always like a sneaky, like, here you go, $600 or however much dollars out of nowhere. I remember one year I went to go like renew my driver's license, and I had like 6 straight years of excise tax I hadn't paid. It's like $1,000 or something. I'm like, well, I guess I'm stuck. I had to be like getting on a flight like the next day or whatever. So I'm like, all right. But I was like, some of my buddies were like, they didn't just like take you in cuffs right away. I'm like, for missing 6 years, but no, you just paid it.
Yeah.
All they want is they don't want another person in jail. They want your money.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why the liquor stores are open, right?
Right.
Exactly. Weed stores, cannabis stores are open. I've bought in 3 rigs since this whole quarantine has started.
Really? I had no idea those were open. That's essential business?
Yeah. It is for me. Hey, it is for me.
All right, gents. Well, great stuff going back and forth with you. That's going to conclude it for another edition of Open Season, and we'll catch you all next week.
Awesome.
Good. Yeah.
Have a great night.
All right, you too.
Toward I out.